After two Oscars hits with All Quiet on the Western Front and Conclave, Edward Berger is back with Ballad of a Small Player, starring Colin Farrell as a high-stakes gambler that decides to lay low after his past and debts catch up with him. Along the way, he encounters a kindred spirit who's the key to his salvation. I was so hyped for this movie. After Conclave last year, I became a huge fan of Edward Berger. I think technically he's one of the best working directors, and he just always ends up doing something really interesting with the source material of a novel and translating it onto the big screen in a really unique way. So inherently, even though I feel like Ballad of a Small Player's concept wasn't that intriguing to me, I was like, yeah, I'm watching it no matter what. And I think on a visual level, this is just another Edward Berger masterclass. The score for this film needs to be plastered everywhere I go. Like, I need to be hearing it all the time. It is absolutely phenomenal. I don't even know how to compare it to something like Conclave or All Quiet on the Western Front, but if those got Oscar noms, this one has to as well. This film takes on much more of a neon and like kind of high life look than his past films, and the composition and the use of camera work is just so much more different than anything that Edward Berger's done in his career thus far. It feels like a really, really great step. The only way I can really describe it with making at least partial sense is it's kind of like how Park Chan-wook makes the character an object in and of itself. Edward Berger does that really, really well in this film. Now, not only is it really dynamic, it's just put in spots where it feels like it's behind something. It's not necessarily just capturing the foreground, it's more so capturing an environment, and I really love that. But visual masterclass aside, I think the source material just isn't nearly as strong as his past two films. I think All Quiet on the Western Front, from what I know of the novel, is at least a very emotional story. Conclave, I think, is just very politically interesting, especially in our time, but with Ballad of a Small Player, it's so based in character dynamics that I just don't think were fleshed out very well in the film, to where I didn't really care for a lot of what was going on in the first two acts. The introduction to Colin Farrell's character is interesting, but I don't think that the gambling story and the way that this kindred spirit that's introduced to Colin Farrell throughout the film, that connection doesn't feel strong enough to really last us the entire film. The gambling aspect of this film is really, really exciting, to the point where at the end of the film, when you start to get these revelations and choices that Colin Farrell has to make, a lot of my theater was audibly like distraught or excited by story decisions and character decisions, which says a lot about how much they were invested in a singular character. But I think outside of Colin Farrell's character, not a single aspect of the film is really that intriguing. It does what it needs to with the gambling, with the ups and downs, and making you feel like you really want this character to succeed to a certain extent. And I think by the end of the film, the actions that his character takes, they feel worthwhile. And it's not just like it. The way I'm explaining it, I don't want you to think the film is a waste of time. Like, by the end, and I've seen a lot of films at TIFF this year that they just feel like a nothing burger. This isn't that. There is substance with Colin Farrell's character in and of himself, but there are just so many story moments that feel like they take far too long, and I just don't care enough about at all. So there are moments that feel like a waste of time, and this isn't even that long of a movie, which is why I brought up the source material discussion of, I don't even know if this was meant to be adapted into a film. It's such a short film, and I didn't even care about probably the main two subplots, and so it just felt like it was one basic thing about Colin Farrell's character that worked, and other than that, I can't say much of the film worked for me. But Colin Farrell as a performance is just able to do so much, and I think a gambling film is going to get an actor to hit very high highs and very low lows. That's part of being a gambler, and I think he's able to portray that so well. And one thing I will say is the emotion executed by Colin Farrell is the only thing that makes the dynamic between him and this mysterious introduced character really believable. And this dynamic is really what carries the emotional heft of the final act of the film. And I do think, including the phenomenal gambling aspects and the ending in and of itself, the final act of this movie is like absolutely perfect. It's so perfect that I think I'm like completely neutral on the movie, even though I was not a fan at all of the first half of the film. At the end of the day, this, in my opinion, is Edward Berger's first miss. The Ballad of a Small Player doesn't work in 99.9% of the aspects for me, and I think a lot of that boils down to the source material, but Colin Farrell is absolutely amazing, and that final act had me on the edge of my seat. Overall, I'm giving Ballad of a Small Player a 5 out of 10. If you're still want to check out this film, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.